Hello, and welcome back to Bible Wits Bible Corner. Tonight we are going to finish Acts chapter 24, and I'm going to read verses 22 through 27, starting with the English Standard Version. But Felix, having a rather accurate knowledge of the way, put them off, saying, "When Lysias, the tribune, comes down, I will decide your case." Then he gave orders to the centurion. Then he gave orders to the centurion that he should be kept in custody, but have some liberty, that none of his friends should be prevented from attending to his needs. After some days, Felix came with his wife, Drusilla, who was Jewish, and he sent for Paul and heard him speak about faith in Christ Jesus. And as he reasoned about righteousness and self-control and the coming judgment, Felix was alarmed and said, Go away for the present. When I get an opportunity, I will summon you." At the same time, he hoped that money would be given him by Paul, so he sent for him often and conversed with him. When 2 years had elapsed, Felix was succeeded by Porcius Festus, and desiring to do the Jews a favor, Felix left Paul in prison. New Century Version. Felix already understood much about the way of Jesus. He stopped the trial and said, when Commander Lysias comes here, I will decide your case." Felix told the officer to keep Paul guarded, but to give him some freedom and let his friends bring what he needed. After some days, Felix came with his wife Drusilla, who was Jewish, and asked Paul to be brought to him. He listened to Paul talk about believing in Christ Jesus, but Felix became afraid when Paul spoke about living right, self-control, and the time when God will judge the world. He said, "Go away now. When I have more time, I will call for you." At the same time, Felix hoped that Paul would give him some money, so he often sent for Paul and talked with him. But after 2 years, Felix was replaced by Porcius Festus as governor, but Felix had left Paul in prison to please the Jews. Okay, a couple of things here with this passage that I find interesting. One, the prison system back then was definitely a lot different than the prison systems today, especially depending on if you were considered a Roman citizen or not. There were some freedoms allowed according to what I read in scriptures. For instance, Paul was still allowed to have his friends bring him things that he needed. So there is that I find interesting. The other things, this governor already knew a little bit about Christ, it sounds like. So part of me wants to say that he had already made up his mind on how he was going to rule, but he still wanted to wait and hear the other side. Here's where it gets interesting. 2 years pass, and Paul's accusers still have not come to tell their side what they are accusing him of. So Felix is replaced, a new person comes in, but Felix still leaves Paul in prison to please the Jews. So he's kind of living a two-sided life. He wants to do what's right, yet when he heard Paul talk about living in a way according to Christ, living a right way, and all of that, he got scared. Because he knew that he didn't live a specific way. He knew that he kind of lived a double life, pleasing this person over here And then in the next step, pleasing this person over here. So, Revelations kind of talks about that a little bit. In fact, not kind of, Revelations does talk about that. In chapter 3, verses, I'm going to say 15 through 17, it does talk about you have to be either hot or cold. You cannot be in the middle. You cannot be lukewarm. So, the way I like to word that is I grew up on a farm. You've either got to be on this side of the fence or you got to be on this side of the fence. You cannot ride the fence. You can't have it both ways. So, and that's where Felix struggled. He was kind of living, having it both ways. My hope is that none of us today are living to where we have it both ways. We want to live a life of following Christ on this day, but the next day we want to kind of do our own thing. That's not what Jesus calls us to do at all. So, live according to how Jesus wants us to live. I hope you find encouragement in this, and I hope you have a wonderful, God-centered day. Bye.